Hello my friends! Today I'm really excited to show you a true work of art. Now I know I've said that before and I will hopefully say it again, but I think you'll agree that what I have today is nothing short of a masterpiece. This is Cesar Gomez Ampelosaurus. Cesar is a sculptor from Mexico and he's surprisingly young in terms of sculpting dinosaurs only since 2017. Now when he first put up these images, I immediately fell in love. Now I love sauropods, especially Titanosaurs, but the paint job, the banded patterns, the light blue osteoderms and the soulful eyes just grabbed me. And I knew I wanted it without any changes or customizations. I wanted this exactly as is. Now there's a bit of a sad story to this because thanks to poor postal handling, it was heartbreakingly damaged. So I sent it back to Cesar, who did an amazing repair job. And this time I paid for FedEx as an extra safety measure, and it was absolutely worth it because in hand it is freaking beautiful. Now a little background on Ampelosaurus. The name means vineyard lizard because it was found in Cretaceous France near the Blanquette de Limoux vineyard. So that's pretty cool. A romantic sauropod to wine and dine. Now it was a titanosaur, but by that standard pretty small. And that's fortunate because at 42 centimeters to an estimated 60 meters, that makes it in a 1:38 scale, very close to the 1:40 that I love. Now it had a relatively short neck, and like many titanosaurs, Ampelosaurus also had osteoderms, now which I'll talk a lot more in a bit. But let's get to the review. Now you know that phrase, make a statement? Well, this one makes so many statements I hardly know what to focus on. Now fortunately, for added safety this time, Cesar also separated the neck and tail and made them attachable by magnets, so it could be packed and protected in 3 separate parts. And the seams are so well done that without actively looking for them, you wouldn't be able to see them, right? So the added advantage is that I can then manipulate each component with much less risk. I do not think I will survive the heartbreak of damage to this model again. Now the amazing paintwork renders me near speechless. Now most dinosaurs, especially sauropods, their bodies are pretty common and boring. But here, in the vast expanse of flesh, is a veritable canvas. Now you just see how vibrantly this is colored, and yet not in a flamboyant, but in a very natural kind of way. And what Cesar told me was that he reasoned that there had to be some form of courtship display, even for sauropods, and therefore taking a cue from the sideshow Apatosaurus, this is the result. Now there's an overall brown ochre appearance, and with so many different shades of it. Now I can see light ochre, gold ochre, brown ochre, and a lot of colors I can't name. Now I could really stare forever at how the dappling rendered like you'll see in real life animals, and the skin's really so real, as I hope you can see in the camera, because there's a translucency coming from so many painstakingly built up areas. And if you look, just like how the markings here follow the skin creases, now that is something very difficult to achieve. And all this really contributes to the illusion that this animal is real. Now the neck and tail have a banded color scheme, right, which is something that I love. You'll see here, there's very nice bands with rather different types of brown. Now it's really amazing because again, everything is layered. So if you look at the tail itself, right, where you can see just the dark bands, well, within you'll see much darker mottling. Now this isn't something that immediately registers on the eye, but layering detail like this just brings a realism which the mind can register on a subconscious level, but without actually realizing why. And you see this everywhere. For example, here in the neck, using a much lively and more golden brown for the bands, but even within, you'll see an infusion of purple, which are hinted at in other areas, such as in the feet and also in the shoulder region. And when I put them together, you can see how this lighter brown just flows down here, and the darker browns here just flow into the darker browns up here, and then how they transition from the darks up here down to the lighter browns down here. And it's really beautiful how everything just ties in together. It's just stunning work. And what about the osteoderms? Well, they are one of the most exciting features of this Titanosaur, and indeed one reason why Cesar chose to do Ampelosaurus. Now, he wanted an unusual sauropod and initially thought of Augustinia, but fortunately found out what a red herring that was. I was also extremely disappointed when I found out the truth of Augustinia. Now, osteoderms, for those of you not aware, are bones embedded within the dermis, right? Hence, osteoderms. They're generally grouped into three types: the plate, the bulb, and spine shape. Now, Ampelosaurus had all three, and you can see that Cesar's lost no opportunity here to showcase a variety of shapes and sizes. But what were they for? The most obvious explanation would be body armor. After all, that's what Ankylosaurus used them for. But not so fast. See, there are a couple of facts that reconstructions of heavily armored Titanosaurs won't tell you. Now first, the ratio of osteoderms found to Titanosaurs found in terms of number and also body size is actually very low. Now you'd think that if body armor was the function, there'd be a lot more of it. And secondly, some of the osteoderms, especially of the root and bulb variety, aren't actually solid. So a more intriguing idea, they were in fact for mineral storage, especially as a source of calcium for oogenesis, which suggests that Titanosaurs that had them were in fact female. Now, as expected, being a huge drawer of this dinosaur, it's given the appropriate treatment. And you can see there's no uniformity whatsoever. They're all of different shapes and sizes, with differing kinds of textures, and man, what a paint job. Now, let's look at these little ones on the flanks. Now, they're very nicely sculpted into the side, standing up away from the skin in a bit of relief, and with a very nice blue color that is echoed elsewhere. Now, they serve as nice little accents within the beautiful patterning here. Now, on the hips, you'll see larger disc-shaped osteoderms. Now, these aren't smooth, and they have a nice rugosity to them, and some are intended to be growth rings. Now, Cesar wanted to emphasize the irregularity due to seasonal variation in mineral use, reabsorption, oogenesis, and the like. And they have the same beautiful blue as these ones on the side here, but you can see the textures further brought out because of walls of ochre within, which again ties back to the general color palette of this beautiful dinosaur. Now let's look at the spines up here. Now here on the shoulders, you have these spine-like osteoderms, yet another variety of osteoderm, and man, the paint job here is just insane. Now, I'm going to try to focus on one of these spines here, and you can see that each one of them have bands of color going up, right? And they're alternating between the blue and the brown ochre palettes, and each is a different shade of it. And the way they segue into each other and gives me a sense of turquoise and ivory, a very mineral kind of look, and hence not just showcasing what might be armor, but rather another function, which is mineral storage, such as for calcium. So I don't mind the contrast at all, and this is an exciting artistic license I can embrace. And finally, tying everything together, you'll see that there are many ossicles in between, but with the same color as the skin. And this again is a detail that you wouldn't really appreciate until you're holding this up close in your hands. Now, like many sauropods, the skull wasn't well preserved, but we do have a tooth, a brain case, and a lower jaw. And what Cesar did was to try to incorporate these features. So what you see here is constructed along reasonable lines based on other sauropods. Now, the head was really a draw for me. There's just something in this innocent, nonplussed look, nonplussed explanation on the face that just gets me. And of course, those eyes. Now, I've said before that many models are spoiled for me because of haphazardly painted eyeballs, resulting in many cross-eyed specimens in my collection. And these are beautifully centered on both sides. And the way the blue just recalls the blue on the osteoderms. Again, I like things that tie together, right? And the way the blue here just recalls the blue over here is such a wonderful tie-in for me. Now, if you look at even in these very delicate, tiny spines, I hope you can see that there's still a fade from purple to ochre. And for such a tiny area. And really, there's not a single spot on this model that doesn't have a complexity of color application. Beautiful, just the head itself. Now, the legs are pleasingly sauropod, with, of course, the mandatory thumb claw. And I really love the mottled appearance of these legs. You'll see here the darks on the knees and on the elbows, and of course that is so in many animals, including us, where melanization is just stronger in these regions. So here, and I just also like this piebald look with unpigmented patches here, here in the front, here. All of this, right? The paintwork just shows you how even what are usually simply pillars of support can become small showcases of art in themselves. So to end off, I really can't praise this model enough. And the finishing is just amazing. I just don't have the vocabulary needed outside of beautiful, awesome, exquisite, not to name all the myriad colors, shades and fades that went into this work of art. I'm just really so moved because not just because of the long road it took to finally have him in my hands, but because this really is a case where the actual product is exactly what you see in the prototype images, because it's painted by the artist himself. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my sideshows and my PNSOs, but you all know that what initially excites us when we see the prototype images will almost always be diminished by the actual downgrade in the final product. To hold something like this in my hands, right? Lovingly sculpted, painted, and finished by its creator, it's something truly special. And if you have a chance to own this, you truly will not regret it. Now, I've put some details in the box below, where you can find out more about Cesar's work. And I strongly recommend, if you do get something like this, pay more for FedEx or DHL. A lot safer than the tender mercies of the postal system. You get insurance and also get to you a bit sooner, with these COVID-related postal delays. Now, I'm not being sponsored to do this video, but one little way I want to give back is to shout out some of these independent artists so more people can appreciate what goes into their work and why they cost more. Now, these models are a more affordable bridge between mass-produced models and the 1,000+ models that most of us could never afford. Now, last I asked, Cesar is currently working on a 1 to 10th Cosmoceratops, and I can only imagine how beautifully painted that will be at that large scale. So go check out Cesar's work. Meanwhile guys, stay healthy, be positive, and here's hoping that the COVID situation will improve soon. Alright, I'll see you all very soon.